Right, okay. We call this the 4 o'clock spot. It's never, I don't think, ever been at 4 o'clock, but it was always broadly on the calendar of it was about then in the afternoon, and so it's just become that. So welcome to our weird world of thinkBIM where we have the 4 o'clock spot. What we're going to do now is a series of 4 fairly quick, fast, wake you up, get you thinking before we all send you home or send you to the pub. Or both. Well, yeah, probably both, actually. If you do go to the pub, please go home afterwards in a safe and healthy way or whatever. So, first up, we have Simon. Come on down.
I'm Simon Archer, Senior Safety Consultant for Rider Architecture. I have a background in construction, facilities management and health and safety. I'm here to speak about today CDM risks and BIM requirements. So, Construction Design Management Regulations 2015, or CDM. CDM applies to all construction projects and introduces 5 duty holders. The duty holders being the client, who's responsible for the health and safety of the project, the principal designer, who is responsible to plan, manage and monitor the pre-construction stage, the principal contractor, plan, manage and monitor the construction stage, contractors to plan, manage and monitor their own selves and their work, and designers. So designers' responsibility is to evaluate and combat the risks that they cannot avoid in their designs. The known format to do this is called a design risk assessment, although the design risk assessment is not specified in any regulation. So the principal designer has to pull together this unspecified information and has devised a way of doing this, which is called a risk register. The risk register will ultimately feed into the health and safety file at the end of the project. So, bit of an off-topic thing. I've recently got into cycling. I bought a bike up in May, and he said, right, the first thing you're going to want to do is get an inner tube for your bike, because when you're 20 miles from home and you get a puncture, it's a nightmare. You're going to want to check that old inner tube out, put another one in, pump it up, and get on. I said, right, thanks, mate. Cheers. I'll go straight down to cycling shop. So I did. Straight down to the cycling shop, bought an inner tube. And when I got it home, I looked at my bike and I looked at the inner tube and the valves were different. I obviously don't know what I'm talking about. The guy behind the cycling shop, he knew exactly what he was talking about because I didn't ask exactly what I wanted. I didn't get what I needed. So as an example of what we do in Rider, there's a lot on there. I just wanted to focus in the middle bit, really. So the key gateways, the first one of which is to define and collect your information. So at this point, what we try and do is pull the information manager, BIM coordinator together with the principal designer and understand what's needed at the back end of the project so that the principal designer can put this in his pre-construction information, align his risk registers and go forward into the hazard and risk identification stages, which is done through DTMs or design team meetings, workshops with the design team. Throw up proposed, that should say treatment. It says mitigation, but I believe that's wrong. So that says treatment and control. Throw that up there and then get an agreed treatment and control, put that down into the risk register to go on into the health and safety file at the back end of the project. In more detail, along the top is the CDM risk register categories, and along the bottom is the PAS and 926. 17 mandatory fields. So what I've tried to do is highlight in green the ones where it cross-references. So for example, you've got the reference which relates to the risk name, the element which relates to the associated location, the hazard, where you can see it. But of course, we need to specify this to the client. So we need to develop a clear and concise information requirements for our clients, basically to make them understand what information we need, when we want it, how we want it, and by who. So what I wanted to take away from this is every time you start a project, I want you to think of me in the bike shop, taking my inner tube back, because I don't know what I'm doing, and I want you to remember to specify exactly what you want to ensure you get exactly what you need. That's me, thank you.
Thank you very much, brilliant.
Yeah, I won't use the full 5 minutes for this, but Matthew Norbury, founder and CEO of FC Laboratories. That's not me, obviously, that's Terry. a construction worker on a site in Liverpool where we did some filming and photography a few weeks back. Terry, and this wasn't planned at all, but this kind of touches on some of what we were talking about before. Terry, 29 years old, he lost his best mate to suicide, actually. And he's seen a lot of injuries, some quite nasty ones, on building sites. He did not even question anything of the data, the ethics, regulations. He just said, anything that keeps us safe, that's what we want. And although there are huge amounts of questions, and I'm going to try and leave a wee bit of time in this 5 minutes if anybody's got any additional questions. Huge amounts of questions, the regulation, the data ethics, this is frontier technology. We're looking to prevent accidents, injuries and fatalities in some of the highest risk occupations in the world. It's a huge problem. In the UK alone, 441,000 injuries in the year 2020-21, 142 people killed. That was actually an increase on the previous 3 years. So a huge problem. We are entering field trials with BP and Balfour Beatty in August and other industry partners. Beyond that, we've got a validation group of industry partners, which if anybody is interested in joining and helping us to move this towards launch next year, we'd love to hear from you. One thing I didn't mention before, which I think makes all the difference to a lot of people, is that this is frontier technology. It is complex science, but the needs that we've addressed, the requirements that industry partners have said to us time and time again, is it needs to be simple and it needs to be low cost. Accidents and injuries happen to anybody. We expect Core Tech to cost just £20 a month on a subscription-based model. That's for just a single unit. If you are buying dozens, hundreds, thousands, if you're a large company, the cost comes down to pennies a day, and with the potential to save people's lives, we think that's money well spent. So yeah, as I say, if anybody's interested in what we're doing, joining the validation group, taking part in field trials, I'd love to hear from you. That was it.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. I think, again, I understand why you call it frontier technology, but I think it does challenge us all to think, actually, what are the ways to fix our problems? Now, some of them we'd like to just eliminate from source, but this will, I think, go a long way towards managing the day-to-day risk for people.
Yeah.
It might be that, again, that's absolutely spitballing, is it, where we had a bit of that discussion earlier, is it that it's actually a subscription for the individual to carry for their life, as opposed to for that employer that week? Again, for the Balfour Beatties of the work, long-term staff working on piling rigs year in, year out, fine.
Yeah.
Dry liners coming onto your project, they're there for a week, they do a bit of work, they bugger off, put it politely. That's what they do. Off to the next job, the next job, the next job. If they're on price work, they don't like what they're doing, they disappear to go and find better work. So it's a bit of a nightmare in some respects, our labour force, but it could be a way through it all, one of us to get them to see value.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's something I've got a presentation with countless stats and quotes and testimonials and stuff, but it becomes, I mean, we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I'm not from a construction background. None of us have done this because, I don't know, lost a friend in a industrial accident or anything like that. We're not a purpose-led business. We haven't got that story behind us, but you don't need to spend long talking to people in these sectors to hear the stories, to see the statistics, and to meet people who've actually experienced it, and we've been on training workshops with some of our validation group partners. I was on a Making Safety Personal workshop with Balfour Beatty a few weeks ago, and some of the videos, apart from being a bit old, I have to say, but they're incredibly powerful. And I just think, if I forget, there was a question earlier on today about a digital solution. That was it, digital solution. And I thought, when I was watching these some of these videos, look, if we could just get people to watch a 5-minute video at the start of every day. So I was in this group, and it was all men, to be fair, and 20 odd guys sat around this table, and there was some literally, and I was one of them, literally like dabbing a tear away from my eye at some of them. The stories, the impact's horrendous, and if we can play even a small part in helping address that, that's what it's all about, really. So yeah, any help, much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Matt. Okay.
Got you next, Paul.
So it's 27 months since we were last here, and I did a presentation very similar to this back in March that time. I talked about air quality, and we've been talking about health and safety. Air pollution accounts for the deaths of around 7 million people worldwide every year, and about 36,000 early deaths a year in the UK. So it's good reason to worry about air quality, and I know I raised it earlier as well. Currently, we monitor air quality through, you can buy devices, some which can be installed in buildings. We've got infrastructure, that's on Euston Road, that's up in Camden. It's installing a solar-powered detector outside the Royal Free Hospital. And then we could present that information. Some of that information could be presented as open data. So I know that we've had Leeds Open Data Institute branch come and talk to us. They've got air quality trends for locations in Leeds shared there. And we also have a very similar approach in London. So this is where I live. I'll be talking a bit more about this later on. So there is a London Air Quality Network, which has been established. And they share information. They make this information openly available because it's in the public good, public interest to share this type of information for health reasons. But also we have issues within construction which relate to emissions from sites sometimes, and also working in open environments as well. So there have been various solutions. The Canary was one that was brought forward, a mobile solution. I bought some of these. These are Atmo tubes. So I've had 3 different versions of these devices. There are a personal tracker. The Canary just gives you a reading based on where you are. But this one gives you a reading based on exactly the space you're in, not just your GPS location, but actually inside a building. So it detects all of these different things. So particulate matter, NO2, atmospheric pressure, temperature and humidity, all those things that count for your attention to detail that you might have. So on my way around 2 years ago, I was able to track the air quality, the weather changes, the temperature, humidity, and so on, and understand around me what was going on. And it also presents other ways of sharing the information. So I can look at it geographically. So you can see my journey from London to Leeds that day. The air quality in my train was pretty consistent most of the time. And the air quality in Leeds when I arrived there was also pretty good. I mean, quite a good day, obviously, that day. Other times, though, I'm in London, big city, and you can see at a glance, this is an image from an article in The Guardian, just showing the haze over London when the air quality gets poor. And we have episodes every summer where the air quality gets really poor. And some of this is down to issues around particulate air pollution. These are the very fine particles that might come from not just emissions from exhausts, but also brake linings, tire dust from tires, and so forth. And I live in this bit here, which is it's the channel that leads up to the Blackwall Tunnel, and they are trying to expand the capacity of the Blackwall Tunnel, a notorious bottleneck, by building the Silvertown Tunnel. And the nature of building new roads is it attracts new traffic. So you can sort of see on this graphic, the red one, just the amount of traffic that is going to attract. That's going to draw new traffic into an area of London which is already prone to quite bad pollution. You can sort of see here, this is the NO2 readings And all those little blue blobs are schools. So you can sort of see, we've got some schools, located and very close to the Silvertown tunnel. It's going to draw more traffic in, and lots of people have already, raised alarm about this, but the project is going ahead. Much to my sort of local concern about it. Normally I like tunnels. I'm a fan of tunnels, but when you read about people dying because of poor air quality, this was Ella Roberta Adu Kissy Deborah, who died, and the coroner identified air pollution as the reason for her death. And she lived 25 yards from the South Circular. That's the South Circular. She lived just down here. I live there. My kids went to school here. So that's the Invicta Primary School. It's less than 50 meters from where the Silvertown Tunnel will come in and go past my kids' school. Now, these are my kids. This was taken 11 years ago. They were both at Invicta School at that time. So my concern about air quality is very personal, because they also went to school with people who had asthma and couldn't go outside when the air quality was poor. And that sounds all very sad, but let's finish on a more positive point. I can also use things like air quality and mapping tools on things like Strava. So you can see on this map where I commonly run, but I don't run along the main roads. I don't run up the edge of the Blackwall Tunnel approach. I go round the riverside where the air is better. And I have friends who go to park run. They do the same. Our heat maps are very similar in many cases, because we're trying to avoid the bits where the air quality is poor. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. So yeah, I'm Kirstie Marie. I am here today representing the Lighthouse charity. I also do work in construction and have done now for 6 years. I work for Galliford Tray. I work in the Highways Division for Local Authorities North. Just a few statistics, just to give you a bit of background there. As you can see, the first one where the gentleman is sat down crying. I used to be able to say every single day we lost one worker. I unfortunately now have to move that to two. Two construction workers today will take their own lives, or even lose their lives. Last year there were 30 fatalities on building sites throughout the UK. Another statistic. Over 2,000 major accidents, though, impact on our industry throughout the year, which is quite a lot. Now, that can mean anything from, any injury on site. It could be injuries to hands, road traffic collisions, anything like that. If they're going to site, that's what we class as an accident. Stress, depression and anxiety, of course, counts for 1/5 of all our work-related illnesses within the construction industry. Last year, bearing in mind we'd just come out of lockdown, we still lost 1.7 million man hours and days through illness, which is an industry is a huge amount of loss. So these are the statistics for the Yorkshire area for what we've supported from January to March of this year. So we've helped out 662 families in crisis. The industry construction helpline is available 24/7 a day and 7 days a week and 365 days a year. I brought you some leaflets and I brought you some codes as well, little cards that you can actually log on to the app, seeing as we're all about digital today. So yes, I'll go on to that in a moment. Families in crisis can be anything currently at the moment. That could be somebody who's been made redundant or has moved from a site and can't get onto a new site. It can be a financial basis. We've helped families through delivering dinners to them because they can't afford to buy them currently. We've helped out families with their bills. We've helped out families with solicitors, if they've got court cases, anything like that. So it's not exactly what you think. It's a whole spectrum of ideas. We spent £213,000 on charitable services, again, and 108,000 already spent on education and training this year, this first quarter. Education and training is about mental health first aiders. I'm sure you've all heard of mental health first aiders. I personally am one myself, and it is basically training as many people as we can to be mental health first aiders. There is a 3-day course where you can become a mental health first aider. There is also a 1-day course, which is a fantastic course to give you an insight into mental health and the trigger points for probably your staff and your colleagues as well. So moving on to what we're doing to achieve this. So as I just mentioned, we have the free app, which is designed as a preventative tool. So what that covers is physical, mental and financial well-being, as I've already discussed. Mental well-being, as we're all aware of, can be anything, whether or not you're feeling a bit down in the dumps and you just need to talk to somebody. You know, in this industry, which predominantly is a male industry, you are not good at talking to each other. It's just one of those things. So that's what that's for there. Emotional can cover stress, anxiety, anger, can include sleep. Silly as it sounds, stress, workload, work-life balance is the first thing. It will give you stress. Physical well-being as well. So your occupational health, have you got aches and pains? What's causing things like that? Nutrition, weight management, alcohol and drugs addiction, which is on the rise as well, even as we speak. The financial well-being, as I've said, emergency financial aid, budgeting, debt management, you know, tax. A lot of our subbies, etc., subcontractors, they are all self-employed. You know, February, March, April, the tax returns are coming up. Oh, heck, what am I going to do, sort of thing. So we are there to help you for that. So you can log on to the app, or the only information it asks you for is an email address at that point, but you can go on. There is lots of tools on there for you to actually manage through and work through. Obviously, the reason why we've gone to digital, as you're all sat here, you've all got a mobile phone in your hands. So it was the easiest way for us to get the information out to you. It is a confidential helpline. Not only is it for anybody who actually physically works in construction, it's also for your family. And I think that's one thing that we need to stress. Whilst we work in construction, when we get home, the first person who we have a go at is whoever we see as soon as we walk through the front door. It's just part of life. You know, you go in, have you had a good day? And it just comes straight off into somebody who probably knows nothing about what you actually do. You know, my son has no idea what I come to work and do. But when I get home and I've had a stressful day, then he knows, you know, right, we'll talk about it, but I don't quite understand it, Mum, but that's fine. So what else do? We also provide toolbox talks. There is a list of toolbox talks there on the system that you can download and use. They are all free. They are all free from the app. But what we do like to do, obviously, is we do need your help. We do need your support. It is a charity and it is all down to charitable funds. So in the Yorkshire area, we hold 2 functions a year. We did a spring ball in March, which was our first face-to-face for 3 years. We raised just over £38,000 on the day. Our November event, which is our big Christmas luncheon, which is held in Leeds at the Hilton. Last year, we raised just over £72,000 on the day. All those funds stay in the Yorkshire area and Humberside. They all stay local, so we help locally. And that's one thing that we bear in mind. It doesn't go into a big kitty and, you know, is distributed out. It stays local to help local people, local companies and local businesses as well that may be struggling in this construction industry. So you can do that. You can either get a table with us at the event, or you can sponsor. You can do that as a business. You can do a company supporter, or you can just donate £100. Whatever you want to donate, you can donate that at any time. You can set it up as a direct debit monthly if you want to do it as an individual, or you can do it as a business. So I will leave you some brochures and some cards outside. If anybody wants to know anything else, obviously in more depth detail, let me know.